welcome back to the GT3. Now today is a slightly different format, and for me a very exciting format, because we're going to back-to-back compare and get opinions on GT3 versus GT4. And what I mean by get opinions on, normally I would take these cars off on my own and chat about them and things like that, but lately I've been driving cars of owners, and with the Scuderia video I did, I actually had Andy, the owner of the car, in with me, and it was actually really nice because, you know, no one knows these cars better than the owners. So as much as I can give my opinion and thoughts across on these cars, and believe me, I will, it'll be really nice to get the owner's take on it, and also how he feels about how this car compares with his car. So without further ado, let's jump in the GT4 and see what it's all about. Welcome to the GT4, and this fine gentleman in the passenger seat is Chris, who is the owner of this car and just so happens to be a long-time friend of mine. And today we're going to get your take and my take on both of these cars. I've only ever driven a GT4 in London, so it doesn't really class as driving one, I don't think. This is a car that needs to be on these kind of roads.
Absolutely.
So, how long have you had this for now, man? Like,
I've had it for coming up for 12 months.
Yeah.
I think I got it in about sort of September time last year.
Yeah.
So one of the pretty early ones.
Yeah, and the story of you getting your car is a bit interesting, because we were actually at the cinema, mid-film, whispering about cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to have a GTS. Was the car I was actually looking at, just from an affordability point of view.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me, just keep your eye out on a GT4, which I hadn't heard of. So yeah, it kind of stemmed from there, really. Obviously I had a little look online. You showed me some sort of pictures of it.
Yeah.
And I made a call down to somebody we knew at Porsche Solihull.
Yeah.
And literally that morning, it wasn't that far off actually. I think it was a couple of days in. And they started taking deposits for the car.
Amazing.
So I just made my mind up.
Happened to phone on the right day.
Pretty much, yeah.
These cars were hard, like when these first launched, they were really hard to actually get hold of.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my dad had a couple of cars off them before.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's sort of stood me in good stead or
maybe.
But no, they were. They just said then and there, if you want to put some money down on one, they're not sure how many cars at that stage they were going to be getting.
Yeah.
So they just said, you know, give us some money and we'll see what we can do, and it kind of stemmed from there, really.
Yeah. And you first wanted to order this car in blue, and they said no.
They did say no. But no, we ended up in white, which is kind of.
I actually prefer it in white.
Well, thank you. It was at the time. It was for me the next best thing, because I wanted it in blue. Having now had it in white,
yes,
I'm very happy with the choice. So even though it was made for me.
True. So today, for me, I'm going to be subjectively driving the GT3 and this back to back. Obviously, there'll be some comparisons, but fundamentally these are completely different cars. Not to mention the fact that mine's a PDK twin clutch gearbox and this a manual.
Yeah.
But my take on this car is that Porsche launched this car because when the 991 GT3 was launched, there was no manual option, and the market was up in arms about that there was no sort of purist driver's car, and all of a sudden this car launched, and needless to say, as a result of that, the premiums on these went crazy. I mean, if you wanted one when these things first came out, some of these cars were going for 40 or 50 over list.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I mean, I got mine because I got in there so early.
Yeah.
I actually got mine for the right price. Obviously now there's a little bit of a different market for them,
which I actually think is what makes comparing these two cars a little bit more worthwhile, because even though these cars started at what, 62, 65 grand,
yeah,
if you want one now, they're not too far off a GT3.
Well, true. From my point of view, obviously it's great to get a car that, at starting price, obviously this has got a few little extras on with the seats and whatnot, but starting price of sort of £65,000, which when you think about what car it is,
so much car for the money.
It is
so much car.
It is, and that's kind of my feel for this, and in terms of this against the GT3.
Yes.
would be that this is a little bit more the sort of, and I'm not going to steal anyone's line, but a little bit the Floyd Mayweather. You know, he's going to get knocked out by a big heavyweight.
Yes.
But in terms of pound for pound, this car, you know, I think sits amongst some of the better pound for pound cars out there.
I think the main areas where the GT3 might excel over this car is the engine. It's a proper GT engine with it having like 4 internals, revs up to 9,000 revs. But I think Porsche would actually create their own problem if they were to put a GT3 engine in this car. I think it would clean up, because this car, I feel, is a better balanced car, with it being a proper mid-engine car, whereas all of the weight in a 911 is all out back. And I know purists are like, yeah, but it's in the right place and all that sort of thing. Listen, on track, no car have I ever driven where the importance of maintaining a balanced throttle is as important on a 911. This thing is so well balanced.
Well, they had to fit it somewhere, didn't they? In terms of, there is already a GT3, so you know, they've brought out a car that I think in the very early days of it, they weren't 100% sure how it was going to go.
Yeah.
And I think it's gone a lot better than even Porsche anticipated. But it kind of, it had to sit in between. I don't know, the sort of, at the time, the top end Cayman.
Yes.
Being the GTS, which was already in its own a decent sports car, very decent sports car. And obviously then the 911.
I tell you what though, I mean,
I think they did a good job.
They did a bloody good job of it. I mean, as much as I love the PDK box in my GT3, just then, braking hard, downshifting, heel and toe, I miss that engagement. It is so cool. I mean, okay, it's not as quick, but on the road, how quick do you want, man?
Oh, absolutely. And for somebody like me, you know, who potentially isn't that as much of a driver as others out there, you know, yes, you can do your heel and toe. I can press my little button.
Auto, you don't use auto.
I do sometimes. Yeah. Of course.
Well, I always wondered, why would Porsche, who position these cars and their GT range cars, why would they even offer a button like that? Like, my take on this is, if you're buying a GT series Porsche with a manual gear stick, it's aimed at those purists who want to be involved in the driving experience, like heel and towing and things like that. And I always thought, what's the point in that button?
It's for me.
For people like you.
It's for people like me. People who can't drive.
Fair enough.
So no, I use it sometimes. If I'm feeling lazy, my heel and towing isn't up to standard really. So yeah, that's when I use it.
Right. And I have to say, the exhaust job they did on this, let's just press the button. I mean, it sounds great, man. What's really strange is hearing a 911 sound coming from a Cayman. That's odd, man. It's really strange.
Sounds good though, yeah?
It sounds amazing, yeah. Now, straight away, now we're on some roads which are a bit more flowing, it doesn't have the same amount of torque as the GT3.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's not lacking in torque, but it's very Porsche in terms of all of that power is very much at the
top end.
The top end, What's nice about that is when you do get up the top end, it's like alive, isn't it? It's a visceral experience.
I hate being negative about this car because it's my baby. I love it.
Yeah.
But and obviously on different formats you can read this because a lot of people have said a similar thing. In terms of, and obviously we'll get up to it in a bit, but in terms of that, how long the gear ratios are.
Yes.
That is my one little thing that, especially on a track, but even on the road, you kind of, you want it to give you another gear. You sometimes feel like it's too long.
Interesting.
And the more you drive it, you'll probably see that for yourself. But other than that, I think it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
I'm really enjoying this rev matching, man. It's bloody brilliant.
You're not feeling you want to press this button yet?
I'm not feeling. Do you know what? I've never even experienced it. So just as much as I'm slagging it off, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah, have a look at
sport mode. That's odd. That's the weirdest thing. Oh no, I couldn't do that. I'd be double rev matching all day long. I mean, to be fair, perfect, doesn't it? Wow.
Oh yeah, it works well. What do you think of the actual manual itself?
Let's turn that off because that's annoying.
You're not liking that? No, but the actual, the gear change.
The action of the gear shift, very short throw, beautiful. It's lovely.
a lovely manual, isn't it?
Let's face it, Porsche make the best manual gearboxes. The 997 GT3 was, in my opinion, probably the last great manual gearbox. Rumour has it that Porsche are launching the generation 2 of my GT3 with the option to buy it as a manual car.
Oh, right, okay.
Time will tell, and let's not class the 911R, because in England there's 25 of them. You pretty much had to be a 918 owner to get invited, and they're now about 400 grand. So let's not class that. But in terms of an accessible, you know, focused Porsche with a manual stick, this is it, man. And it's great. Let's see if we can just get some acceleration on this car. Okay, so starting in first, okay? I know what you mean. I mean, you can do silly speeds in second.
Yeah.
Silly speeds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has a lot of time in gear. You could do most roads in second. That's crazy. Now, do you want that from a manual car? If I was a manual car owner, the whole point of it for me is to interact more with the gearbox. So yeah, price-wise,
Yeah.
punches above its weight, but still an accessible car. What'd you say?
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, that price range with the reviews the car's had, it would have, you know, they sell a lot of cars, aren't they?
Absolutely. Well, this car was Evo Car of the Year, 2015.
There you go.
I mean, as far as accolades go, for a car of this price bracket, incredible. And again, this goes back to what you were saying earlier, pound for pound, performance-wise, is just fantastic. So, we've sang this thing's praises. What don't you like about it?
I'll probably save my what I don't like about it until I've driven the GT3.
Okay, cool.
And then I'll probably come up with a few more reasons why I don't like it.
Okay, so we're back in my GT3. This format video is a little bit different than normal. I thought it would be more interesting to get a non-GT4 owner driving the GT4 and experiencing that, and a GT4 owner driving a GT3 and experiencing, in his words, the difference in cars. Because it's all well and good me talking good about my car, you talking good about your car, but I think it's easier to compare something when you notice a much more of a tangible difference.
Well, firstly, you did pretty well with the intro there. That
Cheers.
was a bit of a tongue twister. GT4, 3, I was confused.
That's it, man. So, you've just reversed it out of my drive.
Yep.
First impressions?
First impressions are it's wide at the back.
Wider.
It's a fair old bit wider than the GT4.
So, fundamentally, sitting in this, when you look at these dashboards, pretty similar.
Yeah, very similar car, yeah.
Obviously, you're now controlling gears either from here. You can either knock this thing left like that, down is up, up is down.
Okay.
Which is more of a race car layout. In a sort of new cup car, you would slam it down, pushing it forwards towards the car. So I think that's why they've done that. In the R8, it was the opposite way around, and I used to jump from that car into this car, and I'd be shifting up, and I wanted to go down and all sorts of shit. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm probably gonna, if you don't mind, I'm probably gonna drive it in the
however you want,
flappy pedal anyway.
Yeah. It's now in manual, in that you have to change gear.
Up and down?
Both, up and down.
Okay.
It'll change gear down automatically if you slow down and the revs drop below an acceptable level. Then it will drop down for you, but it won't upshift for you even at top revs. It'll just bounce off the.
And there's no
restrictor.
Auto blipping on this one.
Well, actually, there is.
Oh, there is.
When you change down, that's what it's all about, isn't it? There's no clutch.
No,
There's no clutch, but auto blip is
Edit that out.
What it does.
I knew that. I knew that.
So, sound.
Rain
I know
traffic.
right now we're obviously creeping, but can you hear any difference in sound at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main difference that I'm going to feel, obviously, is the engine. I mean, you know, there's got to be a reason why this car is 100+ thousand pounds and my car is sort of a fair bit under that. So, and one assumes engine has a lot to play in that.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this now that I reckon it's the engine that dominates this car. I mean, you know, people talk about front end turning and how this thing handles. The Cayman's a fantastic thing. I mean, again, I know you were complaining that the front end on the Cayman is a bit soft, but you can tweak that, and people I know who have done it say that front end is just as good as this. So I'm not going to say handling is the sort of defining feature of this car. I'm going to call it now and say engine.
Yeah, okay.
And you haven't even driven it yet. So
the blue looks great, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun.
I love the
it's
blue.
different, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it was ice silver, and funnily enough, I bought it in ice silver because I thought it was the best colour for that car. And then I had it wrapped, and now I'm absolutely in love with this. So,
okay, well, it sounds better.
So how do you think about this so far?
In terms of the sound, obviously you've had a bit of an upgrade on it.
Yeah.
So that's not fair.
It's not fair, but I will say on the inside, it's not a huge difference from stock. Don't be afraid to rev it out. It is like yours in that it'll rev for days.
Oh wow, yeah. It feels far. How good? Probably chunkier is probably a good word. Yeah. Wow, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Steering weight?
Steering weight.
Slightly heavier?
It is heavier, yeah.
It's a bit, right? And torque. Anything like that?
Yeah, it's much more torquey. I mean, bear in mind, I just stuck in 4th gear there.
Right.
Whereas with mine, I would have known.
I mean, even still, this still does have a bit of the characteristics of your engine, in that it does benefit from dropping it an extra gear. But no, it definitely does feel like it's a bit more thicker with torque. All right, let's see it.
Oh, what a gear change!
The gear shifts are insane,
aren't they? What a gear change that is!
It's an amazing shift.
That's a fantastic.
It's like a tone change, isn't it? It's absolutely instant.
It is.
But do you know what? I still feel like a little tap in the back when you shift. Like, it's not completely seamless, so it's not devoid of any feeling, but it is bloody fast. Like, that shift is instantaneous.
It was surprisingly quick, actually.
Right? Yeah.
I suppose what, for you and I, both of us having gone for slightly different cars, we're going to look at it from slightly different angles from a point of view of, I'm looking, would I spend the extra money on this versus potentially you looking at whether or not having the other one is kind of worth the saving.
Sure.
Almost.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, it works. I mean, if you can afford one of these, one assumes people would have one of these. I think what would drag somebody back to a GT4 potentially is the manual.
Well, that's I think that is the defining feature of that car, is the fact that it is a proper manual sport.
And okay, the last generation of this car is manual.
Yeah.
But you can't get this in manual, so...
You mentioned in your car that you'll tell me during driving this car what you didn't like about the GT4.
What
you know what?
Like
as a passenger, it feels faster.
It is faster. I mean, you can tell that from driving.
No, but I mean, my own car feels faster than when I'm normally driving it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Mad. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, stuff that you don't like about the Cayman.
About the Cayman?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I don't like about all of the Porsches across. I mean, yours has got exactly the same.
Yeah.
I know the Turbo S has got exactly. What am I going to say? Go on, you tell me.
Handbrake.
Handbrake, yeah.
I can't lack of handbrake.
Well, I can't get it right.
Button brake.
I don't think I've ever got it right, James.
Well, I never know whether to push it or pull it or pull it.
I know.
I don't know the amount of times I get in, and it's normally when I'm in between doing something. I'll have jumped out of the car to do something quickly, normally stick a camera on the roof, or so I jump back in and I'm like, pull it, and it puts it on, push it, and it turns it on, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, it's funny that you knew what I was going to say before I even said it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times I've jumped in and out of the car, but...
Is it just because we're idiots? I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
You said it. You said it, man. Oh, it's much quicker.
Yeah.
Much quicker. Remind me again why I chose to have a manual car when this does this for me, especially with how lazy I am in terms of the...
Do you know what's funny though? You always want what you can't have. It's like, you know, when I drove your car, I was like, oh, I really miss a manual box. There was a way of summarising, because as you mentioned earlier, quite rightly, it is unfair to compare these things. Like, having a genuine versus between the GT4 and GT3 probably isn't fair, but now they're in this price realm where these and those aren't a million miles away. What is the sort of defining feature?
I think it will end up coming down to the PDK versus the manual.
Yeah, I think
as to which one that individual wants to drive.
I'm just looking back as to why I bought this car in the first place.
Yeah.
When I bought this car, the GT4 was out. I could have bought one.
Right, okay.
Right? My sort of experience with this goes much further back. Before the GT4 was launched, I got to, fortunately, drive one of these, a friend of mine's, in Bahrain, right? And the experience of that, what dominated the most was engine and drivetrain. So the fact that this thing revs to 9, it is a proper sports car engine. It's not from a production car of a standard 911. And just the way that the gearbox interacts with that engine is such a special thing. As you've mentioned, the first thing you said when you eventually left those traffic lights and got up some pace was, God, that shit.
Well, reaction doesn't lie, does it?
It's insane.
The first thing I felt as soon as it almost felt like it happened quicker than I changed gear. I mean,
it's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think if they were different price bands still, considerably different. I mean, they are still at different price bands. But if we just had two cars, £65,000 for a GT4.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, these started pretty much with bits 120.
120.
Yeah.
So double, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. So, is it double the car? Probably not.
Probably not double the car, no. Can you tell that it is more of a car? Yes.
Is that worth 60 grand?
Well, if you've got
Depends on how much you've got. I think this is it. Is this car the more desirable car?
Yes.
And I think that ultimately comes down to it.
Unless, of course, and this is just me doing my little thing sticking up for the GT4.
Yeah.
Unless you are such an enthusiast of a manual car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you said at the very start of the whole process that it probably came about, the GT4, because of the comments of GT3 owners
saying, where's the manual?
Where's my manual?
I think you're right. Yeah,
so,
that's it. So what we're doing here is, how long's a piece of string?
Yeah, we are. We're not doing a
We're
very
going
good
around in
job.
circles.
No.
But what's great about this is we can't really come to a solid conclusion, but bearing in mind that both this car and the GT4 have at some stage won Evo Car of the Year.
They're good cars, aren't they?
They're good cars. So either way, you can't go wrong.
No.
That's it. And I think it comes down to engine preference and do you want manual or do you want PDK?
Yeah. This car has, without a shadow of a doubt, for me, even in a very short period of time of driving it, proved its worth in terms of the premium against the GT4.
Right. Interesting.
But why would Porsche, in any set of circumstances, create a car for half the price?
It's better than that.
That somebody's going to jump in and think is better than the.
Yeah, totally.
That they're not.
Anyway, guys, that's our irrelevant conclusion. As always, thanks for watching, and thanks to Chris for lending us a GT4 for the day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.
Bye.